Welcome to Dropping In, a podcast of storytelling and interviews with your host, Winter Olympian Mercedes Nickel.
Thank you so much for dropping in today. This is series 6, a fun series where I've reached out to some friends that happen to be Olympians that have spent a lot of time on the road. Kind of like me, I spent 20 years living out of a suitcase. And along with those 20 years comes a lot of good stories. So let me introduce episode 55's guest that we will be dropping in with today. Now, this guest went to the University of Victoria in British Columbia, Canada. And in her first year, I say luckily because it's important, she learned rowing. And why do I say that? Because she went on to earn Canada 17 medals on the World Cup and World Championship tours, 4 of those being silver at World Championships. My jaw is dropped. She is a 3-time Olympic rower with 2 fourth places finishes in Athens 2004 and Beijing 2008, taking home the silver medal in the London Games in 2012. Now, I think that's okay to say that we're pretty happy she picked up rowing in university. This mother, wife, daughter, friend, world champion, 3-time Olympian, and Olympic silver medalist Darcy Marquardt Hortness is with us today. A
Thanks so
mouthful.
much.
I'm sorry. You're double-ended.
The double name, I know. Thanks so much for having me, Mercedes.
Thank you for coming on. It's so nice to see your face. Now,
Oh,
it is February 7th when we're recording this right now, so we're deep into the Olympics.
woohoo, go Canada.
I know. Have you been able to enjoy some of the games?
Oh, it's been a whirlwind trying to get it all in, but yeah, I have caught some of the figure skating and snowboarding so far,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just some of the speed skating. I love the Winter Games. I grew up watching it, so it's
Okay,
such a fan.
so good. Okay, so on dropping in, I start with 10 rapid fire questions. The audience knows they're never rapid fire. They never go quickly, and that's okay because they just want to get to know you a little bit more. So, are you ready to drop in?
I am ready.
Okay, number 1, what is the one thing that you traveled with that was a must-have for your sport?
For my sport. So in rowing, we use large, long boats. So we traveled with our own tools, wrenches, and um, yeah, spare parts to be able to put our boats together when we're overseas.
Wait, did they come apart?
Yeah, so the boats actually in North America, where or if you live close to a boat builder, you will get a fully intact 8. So the 8 is the longest boat, and that's the one that I raced in mainly in my later years in my career.
Yeah.
But in Europe, they have to send them over in those shipping containers that go on those huge ships, and
Right.
the boats are too long, so they actually cut the fiberglass and put bolts in bolt holes and send us with bolts to put it together. And it's actually Vaseline that goes on in between the two halves. It's not exactly half, it's like 3/4 and a quarter. A lot of people
Oh.
don't know this.
No.
So that you put Vaseline in to seal the seam, and it's tightened down with wrenches, and yeah. Mhm.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Poof, my mind is blown. Okay. Number 2, who would be the most high profile contact that you may have in your phone?
High profile contact. Hmm.
I mean, you know a lot of Olympians.
I know a lot of Olympians.
And then I always think, like, that's to us, it's not high profile, but to other people, it is.
I suppose. Um, I've got Marnie McBean in my
Yeah.
contacts. So
Nice, nice.
she was our chef de mission in 2012. So yeah, known her a long
Marnie.
time.
Marnie, I love her.
Mhm.
She's one of my favorites. She
She's
frequents
amazing.
Whistler as well.
Right. Yes.
Number 3, what is the top song or playlist that you might be listening to right now?
So I recently watched the latest Disney show called Encanto.
Okay.
And I would say that's been on repeat lately when I'm working and just hanging out, cooking, or playing with the kids.
Okay.
It's got a lot of catchy tunes. I think it's going to give Frozen a run for its money as the next
I
hit
dig it. I'm gonna
album.
have to listen to it. Well, how old are your kids now? This is not a
They
rapid fire question.
No, yeah, I've got a 7-year-old and twins who are almost 5.
Oh my goodness, time flies by so
Yeah,
fast. They're
I
already
know.
5, the twins. I remember when they were
Yeah,
in your belly.
yeah.
Ah, crazy. Okay, Encanto. I'm gonna download that. I think that sounds good.
Mhm.
That's, like, right up my alley.
It's so good.
Number number 4. If you could go back to an Olympics, would you choose summer or winter?
Oh, like if I was going to compete again?
Yeah.
Ooh. I'd probably do winter. We're like a winter sport country, I think.
Yeah.
Having been a summer Olympian, I guess I can say that a little tongue in cheek. But we spent a lot of time, and I know a lot of summer athletes spent a lot of time finding warm weather to do our sports. So you talk about traveling um, in the off season, that's where we would find the warm weather to get to, open water that we could row on. So I think I'd try winter. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, I was
Um,
always envious of the travels to heat.
right. Yeah. We want what we can't have.
Exactly, exactly. Number 5, if you were invisible, what is the first thing that you would do?
Oh gosh. Invisible. Wasn't ready for that one. It's like a
They're pretty
superpower.
random.
Yeah, it's superpower. If I was invisible, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have teenagers. I feel like if I was a mom of teenagers, I'd wanna, like, be a fly on the wall when
See
they're
what they're talking
talking to
about?
their friends, yeah.
What is the language they're actually using? Because sometimes that gets confusing.
Yeah, I know. I don't know, maybe sneak on an airplane and go somewhere.
Oh, that's a good
Mhm.
call.
Yeah.
Every time I think of, like I ask this question, I'm like, "Rob a bank." I would rob a bank. I would never rob a bank. It's not something I would do, but it's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, if you can't get caught, why not?
Okay, number 6. Are you a big city or small town kinda gal?
Well, I think I I sort of live in a small town now, even though I'm in a it's Tsawwassen not a suburb of Vancouver, but it's far enough away that you can get to the city life if you would like to, or you can just hang out. I like the small town vibe though. I like where everybody knows each other. You kind of get to know the community knows you or your family.
Yeah,
So I like that closeness feel.
I also
Yeah.
do, for
Mhm.
sure. Tawasin, I don't go there very often. I get a ferry. Did you know that,
Yes.
have you seen the snowboard ferry?
No, there's a
Oh,
snowboard ferry?
there's yeah, with a snowboarder on it. That's me.
Oh, no way. I will have to keep my eye open for the
I've
snowboarder.
never seen it in person. It's the
Oh,
one that goes to Nanaimo. Anyways, that's from, like,
oh,
2006 photo for the 2010
right,
series of berries.
yeah.
Anyways,
Oh, fun.
random
Claim to
fact
fame.
that no one knows who it is. It's like you would never know. You're so bundled in snowboard gear, it doesn't matter.
Mm, mhm.
Number 7, what would be the biggest risk you have taken?
Well, other than pursuing the Olympic dream, I feel like that's a big risk.
Yeah.
So lately or recently, a year ago, in fact, I started a business during a global pandemic.
As
And
one does.
so, as you do, yeah. So I would say that was a pretty big risk.
And what's this? What's the business?
The
Give it a
business
plug.
is oh, yeah, it's called Oceano Cleaning Services, and we are a currently residential, service out here in Tsawwassen and Ladner. There is such high demand, we have a huge wait list for clients,
Oh,
and
don't
we are
sign up,
currently
guys.
we are currently hiring, so if you
Oh,
know some
hire.
good
Yeah, yeah,
people,
yeah.
yeah.
Job
We're an
fair.
awesome company to work for, we give back to the community, and, we're growing, like, it's sky's the limit, it's really neat to it feels like we're on this, new journey. Mhm.
Look, I should have added entrepreneur up there. What
Yeah.
don't you do? Yikes, mikes. Okay. Number 8, after retirement.
Mm.
Did your view on the Olympics change at all?
Um, it's sort of a yes and a no. I think that prior to competing, you sort of look at these athletes like in awe, but you don't actually realize all the work that goes into it behind the
Yeah.
scenes and how many years it took them to even get up on those skis or get in that boat or whatever it may be. But there's still such a magic around the games and everybody representing their country and um, just this really neat, yeah, it's magic
Yeah.
that transcends everything, all barriers that I can see, and um, yeah, I just love I love to watch it. I love
Are
to
you, like,
cheer.
super excited to watch?
Yes, yeah,
What is that?
absolutely.
This is my first time, so I'm, like, new to it, and I'm, like,
Oh, this is
jazzed.
your first Winter Games, yeah, the watching, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me ag well, I've watched 2 summer games since I retired, and it's just so thrilling, and when it comes to your event and you still know some of the players, both,
Yeah.
like, your competitors as well as teammates, who might have been, just coming onto the scene, and, yeah, it's really neat to see that, um, unfold, and I don't know, like, it's like a renewed excitement
Yeah.
around
I'm
your
invested.
sport. Yeah.
I am, like, probably too much.
Well, and as an athlete or well, as a spectator, you get to see all the sports, but as an athlete, you don't. You
Exactly.
only either see your own venue or maybe you might catch 1 or 2 events after you're done competing, which not everybody has that luxury either if they're, their events towards the end of the games and,
Yeah, so
um
many people don't
mhm,
know that, like, if your events at the end of the games, you have not done opening ceremonies,
right.
you, like, just got to the games, and when did you compete in the games? Was it early, middle, the whole
Early
time?
rowing is the 1st week of the summer
Right.
games. So
Yeah,
and so we had the 2nd week to kind of enjoy,
that's nice.
the the fanfare a bit and
Yeah,
see some events and sights too, and
for
mhm.
sure. Not this year for the athletes, it's a c pandemic
No,
still,
you
which
come home right
sucks,
away. Yeah,
sucks, but it is what it is. At least they get to compete.
right.
Number 10, see, we're still in rapid fire, team. No, no, number 9, what would you say the best way to travel is?
Oh, like mode of transport? Fly?
Anything.
Oh,
Kaylin
yeah,
on an episode was like, "Light." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't think about that."
yeah. I mean, it'd be great to teleport. You could be right there,
That would be
but
magical.
yeah, wouldn't it? You could just go to, like, Paris for dinner and come home.
Such a
Sleep
good
in your own
feeling.
bed. I think that that's like, I loved traveling all over the world as you did as well, like, to
Mhm.
compete and to train, but I always like coming home to my own bed, and even though I traveled with my own pillow and, like, my earplugs, so you're kind of, like, zone out whatever your surroundings might be.
Yes, totally.
Yeah,
That's funny. That's
coming
good.
home
Now,
always feels good.
number 10, the last one of the rapid fire, and then we will get into on the road stories.
'Kay.
What would you say are the top 3 places that you traveled to?
Oh, I love everything about Italy. I've been to multiple cities there and traveled as well, outside of competition.
Yeah.
Italy, Australia, New Zealand was really cool. I'd love to go back there. And there's a spot in Switzerland that has a rowing course that is just it feels like in the middle of nowhere, even though it's in a big city. But it's a hidden gem. So that town in
Nice.
Switzerland, it's called Lucerne.
Lucerne. I feel
Yeah.
like Will, talked about somewhere in Switzerland that was, like, super
Oh,
magical. I can't
right.
remember. It's on another episode. Anyways, thank you. That was and then so Italy,
Italy,
Switzerland,
yeah,
and a
and,
third?
Australia, New Zealand.
Australia, New Zealand. I
Mhm.
do love New Zealand. Thank you so much for doing the rapid fire. Never rapid, but always fun.
Yeah, that was great.
So, you mentioned that you were on the, 8s team, but you also
Mhm.
were on 2. Were you on
Yes,
4 as well?
pairs. I raced in the 4s at the World Championships and a
Okay.
World Cup, but not at the Olympics.
And, oh, were you always traveling together as the women's team and the men's team, or is it just the women's team on their own?
Uh, so I don't know how it works now, but when I was competing, we would come together for the World Championships, both the men's and women's teams, and on occasion be on the same World Cup tour. Different programs had different goals and what they wanted to achieve, either race more or less. Some, yeah, just different philosophies and coachings and programs,
Yeah.
program goals. So, yeah, we would often be traveling in Europe together, but not on training camps and not, um, yeah,
Wild. Okay,
through the
cool.
winter.
So would you always have a roommate? I mean, I always had a roommate. Canadian
Uh,
athletes really making it
yes,
work.
absolutely. Yeah, it was always somebody from the crew you were in.
Okay.
So yeah,
And I'm just gonna pull up a photo for those that are listening. This is a photo of the women's 8, right?
yes.
So, would your roommate be in front of you or behind you in the boat?
In this picture, I often was paired with the woman in front of me. That's Andréane Morin,
Okay.
and she and I were often roommates, but even the girl behind me, woman behind me is Ashley, and I was paired with her occasionally as well. It's interesting. They would often pair. So you can see in the photo, for those of you that can't see it, that we row on different sides. So
Mhm.
alternating from one side of the boat to the other.
Yeah.
Um, in each seat is a different side. Um, and so we would often be paired roommates with someone who rows the opposite side to us.
Oh,
Um,
that's interesting.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's different personalities depending on which side of the boat you row because when we're broken down into two, so we in like through the winter and during training, we would break down the whole crew into two-person boats. And
Okay.
the role of the in the two-person boat, like, there's the stroke seat, the person who's setting the rhythm, and then there's the person that's sitting behind who has to follow. But the person who has to follow also has to call, like, the race strategy or, like, you're not a coach on board, but you're kind of like you kinda run the workout, you communicate with the other
You're the
crews that
leader.
are on the water. Yeah, so I sat behind always most of the
You're the
time.
leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you were
So,
you were the leader of the roommate.
yeah.
And you mentioned that you had, earplugs. Did you have the face mask and everything when you're
I
on the road
never
too?
I never got into a face mask. I know some
Mm.
people that swear by them, but it bothered my face to have something on it, so
I
I
would
never
al
got
mine would
into that.
always fall off, and I was a disaster. I have like, some of my roommates have the craziest photos of me. They're like, "You it looks like you're floating, because you get, like, to put the pillows under your legs, so you're I don't know. Some
Right.
weird things, but when you had those roommates, did you guys all kinda get together and play games or anything, or was it just like, "We're here to work out, we're rowing, we're doing this." Did you
No,
have any fun?
yes, we definitely did. Well, it was interesting, like, I, grew up on the West Coast, and, in my early days on the rowing team, it was all about card games. Like, you would go down to the
Okay.
common area of the hotel, and this is when we would get to know the guys as well, like, and we would play card games. So I don't
Yeah.
know if you're familiar with euchre at all, but
I
the
know a lot
only
of people that play it, I don't know how to play it.
Right. Well, it's a common, like, Eastern game, and Eastern being, like, Ontario,
Yes.
and Quebec. Like, and maybe even the Maritimes, like, I don't know why it stops at the Manitoba border, but,
It does.
I learned from my mom, and she grew up
Okay.
in Ontario, so I learned how to play
You were
euchre
in.
growing up, and so I could play, and you kinda
You're
get,
kinda
like
shunned if you can't play. You're like, "Okay, I'm just gonna sit over here while everyone else plays."
Right. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. What else did we play? I swear there were other games, but euchre was a common one because it happens pretty fast. You don't have to think too hard.
Okay, but I'm gonna
Um,
put up this photo and ask you, how did you play euchre when your hands if you're a rower, your hands are destroyed most of the time, right?
yeah, well, that would be so the photo is of sort of some bloody blisters on an open palm, but it's before the calluses have built up. Like, that was probably an coming back into the season photo or having taken a week off, like, off of rowing at Christmas break or something like that. Because your hands, like, they soften up so fast, and so you have to build back the callus.
Ugh.
that you need to protect the skin that is on your palm.
Oh, you guys are like seriously some of the toughest athletes I think I know. It's and like the most fit. My dad
Oh.
thinks the curlers are the most fit, and I'm like, "Dad, I just don't think you get it."
Aw.
Too funny. Let's talk about, your husband for a moment.
Hmm.
How and where did you meet your husband? Because he is also an Olympian. For the viewers that are watching, I've thrown up a photo. Um, that must have happened on the road, right?
It did happen on the road, yeah. We were competing in Beijing for the 2008 Olympic Games,
Okay.
and we actually met on a bus, going to watch a diving event. So swimming and rowing are both, first week,
Yeah.
summer sports. So we were done competing, and, we were just happened to be going to watch diving. I think it was, like, Alexander Despatie that night, do his thing, and we were on the athlete bus going from the village to the aquatics cube, which you can actually see on TV now, which is so cool in Beijing, that
Yes.
bubble building. So we took the bus to that building and just like, oh, hey, you're Canadian, I'm Canadian. And we just got to talking and walked into the building together. And we're like, oh, yeah, I might catch up with you later. Um, and we ended up meeting up later at the bar, as you do.
Yes.
And yeah, we kind of connected and kept in touch after the games. We were actually on the same flight back from Beijing. That's 16 hours or 18 hours, I think it ended up being, from
Yeah.
Beijing to Vancouver, and kept in touch and did long distance for a year and a half. And then we both moved to London, Ontario to train in the lead up to 2012, London 2012.
So cool. I love that story. And now you have
Mhm.
3 children.
3 children, I know. I
It's
look
like
back
the
at those
Olympic dream.
those photos are so it's like a different life that I
But
used to live.
right, yeah. So
Yeah.
I wanna pull up another photo that's you at the Henley Regatta, right?
Mhm, yeah.
So you're in a dress, you've got this cup in front of you. Did you win that cup?
We did, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've been to the Henley Regatta. It is one of the most fun events I think I've been to.
Yeah, it is super fun, and well, it's in England, and, people are super proper there. I remember the first time I went, and, women's boats haven't been in regatta for that long. Like, I think it was in the
Oh,
'90s even that, the first women's
interesting.
boats were, permitted to be part of the event,
So
which
posh over
is
there.
well, it's yeah, they were behind the times, but now it's a fully, I think it's if it's not even, it's pretty close,
Yeah.
men to women's events. But I just remember they're like, "Oh, it's a ladies' crew," and they're like, doing the golf clap, and they're like, "Oh, look at the ladies rowing," and they're so proper. Like the dresses had to be down to our knees to go into
Yeah.
that fancy viewing enclosure, and
Yeah, I had to wear, like, to the floor dresses, which I think's, like, kinda cool, to be honest.
I know, yeah. Well, it's a neat tradition for sure. It's part of the rowing culture there as a spectator.
Totally. Now, is
Mhm.
there any one road trip that you just remember? You're like, "Man, that was a good time."
So, in my early days in my career, we had these rowing vans, and they were funded privately by a guy who decided to take it upon himself to fund some of the women's programs out east when I was training out there. And we had these like 15 passenger vans that we would have three of them, and we would drive them down to like regattas and training sites on the eastern side. So like we'd drive down to Boston. There's a big race
Okay.
there in the fall, and I can remember one of those trips, and we're like, it's the road trip van. Like you've got the suitcases in the back, you've got your snacks, you've got your pillow, you've got one of the other athletes are driving, and we just like would pump the tunes. And I can remember sitting, we played that, that song, Boots with the Fur,
Yes.
Apple Bottom Jeans, Boots with the Fur. We
Yes,
played
that's,
that
like, one that
song.
gets stick in my head, and then it comes back all the time.
Yeah. So we were playing that at the border driving down. The other band parked like in the next lane over, was like seeing us, and we were bouncing the thing. It's so ridiculous, but it was definitely memorable, and lots of great adventures in those vehicles. And just, I don't know, so many times when you're on the team through the summertime, it's actually quite a small team. I don't know if you found this as well. The amount of athletes that end up competing for Canada is quite a bit smaller than the training group. And so
Yeah.
this was like the big training group all together. And
Oh,
so it didn't matter if you'd been on the world's team the previous summer. It was really neat and inclusive that way. So
wicked.
that everybody kind of got to, train and race in a bit less stressful environment. And yeah, it was neat.
Yeah, that reminds me of back in the day with like just when I was doing provincial things going around with all the young kids. And I would get like, I don't know if anyone on your team did, but I would get the giggles, like you're overtired and you just get like the nonstop giggles and you just look like a crazy person. That was me in the back. Totally.
But those are the memorable ones for sure. Like, yeah, there's lots of great trips going to Europe and stuff, but like where you are that kind of silly and feeling a bit more like yourself, like, and not having to put on the competitive, game face.
For sure. So
Um,
wild. So
mhm.
many memories. So like how long were you on the national team for?
11 years, I guess. So my first national team was 2002, and I retired in 2013 after my last World Cup
Like that's a
in
lot
April
of
that
memories.
year.
It's hard to pick and choose some of like your favorite times. And if I talk to other teammates, I had my teammate Kaylin Irwin on. She brought up memories, and I was like, I kind of forgot about that trip, to be completely honest. You
Right.
know what I mean?
I know, it's so neat to have those connections with your teammates and reminisce like that. I have a group of teammates who we met in the lead up to the 2004 games,
Okay.
and only me and one other carried on after that. So that group of women, though, we've stayed in touch and gotten together annually until COVID hit. And we're having our first get together this coming May, provided everything is a
Yeah.
go.
Fingers crossed.
um,
Fingers
yeah,
crossed.
we're staying in Canada, so it should be fine.
Yeah.
But everybody's, spread out all over the country, in some cases over the world. So it's really neat to have those teammate connections for sure, and
It
to
is,
reminisce.
and
Yeah.
especially, like, Team Canada, I know you and I were, like, the BC girls that are like, "Okay, when can we have an in-person Olympians time? Like, let's
I
all get
know.
together."
Yeah.
We've gotta make that happen. I really
Yes.
I love everyone in BC. I mean, obviously Canada-wide, but, we got some
Mhm.
gems out here in BC for sure, and it's always nice to see everyone's faces.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
Okay, where can people find you online if they wanna see what you're up to?
Uh, on Instagram,
Yep,
I'm, Darcy M. Hort on Instagram.
yep,
That's, pretty much my main thing. But we have
perfect.
yeah,
Awesome. Well, thank you
that's where I
so
am.
much for dropping in today, on the road with Darcy. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Mercedes.
Thanks so much for dropping in today. You can find everything you want to know about Dropping In with Mercedes at droppinginwithmercedes.com. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Thanks, DJ Kenosis, for the music, and my mom for the intro voice.